rivalry, that the rules-based order is fading, that the strong can do what they can and the weak must suffer what they must. We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination.
No, that was not AI. That was the actual Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, speaking at Davos and actually telling the truth, which must be a first for a Western politician. This speech has gone viral, not just because Carney is doing the impossible and actually telling the truth, but because he is leading the charge against US hegemony by calling for American vassal states to team up, form their own little club, and even stop treating China as if it were Mordor and Xi Jinping were Sauron. Just a year ago, a speech like this was beyond the wildest dreams of anti-American left-wingers. But today, it's being hailed as the first step in Western countries rejecting American hegemony. I'll play the whole speech, but I will focus on the key segments and fast forward and summarize the rest so as to not waste your time. Let's get started.
That the rules-based order is fading, that the strong can do what they can and the weak must suffer what they must.
That line is from the Melian Dialogue, written by Thucydides over 2,400 years ago. It is as true today as it was back then. We've just gotten a lot better at dressing it up with fancy rhetoric.
And this aphorism of Thucydides is presented as inevitable.
It's not inevitable, it's just reality. Always has been, always will be.
As the natural logic of international relations reasserting itself.
You can't reassert something that was never unasserted in the first place. Is that a word? Unasserted?
And faced with this logic, there is a strong tendency for countries to go along to get along, to accommodate, to avoid trouble, to hope that compliance will buy safety. Well, it won't.
Actually, it will buy safety. Vassal states like Canada tend to be pretty safe, at least until you get a Trump in the White House. Then you're all screwed. That's the downside of submitting yourself to a country that you don't have a vote in. Take a lesson from the Israelis and, just buy Congress. Those guys know a good investment when they see one. Okay, in this next part that I'm fast forwarding through, Carney invokes the tyranny of the Soviet Union as a way to frame the fragile nature of American hegemony. Basically, he's saying that American hegemony is like Tinkerbell. It exists only because we Westerners believe in it. And so he's calling for the European vassal states to stop believing in it. That is naive to say the least. American hegemony is not like the value of crypto. It doesn't exist purely on faith and memes. It's backed by the second most powerful military in the world. Anyway, he then moves on to the real nature of the so-called rules-based international order, which I'm sure all my viewers are huge fans of. You're gonna like this part.
For decades, countries like Canada prospered under what we call the rules-based international order. We joined its institutions, we praised its principles, we benefited from its predictability. And because of that, we could pursue values-based foreign policies under its protection. We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false.
And there it is. The first time in history that any Western leader has admitted to the truth that we've always known. The entire neoliberal world order was fake and gay. Go on, Mark Carney. Or should I call you Marx Carney? Tell us more.
That the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim.
Is this man giving a speech or attending a confessional? Bro is truth nuking like Kanye, and he's not even off his meds.
This fiction was useful. And American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window. We participated in the rituals. And we largely avoided calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works.
Yes, he's definitely at a confessional. He's just admitted straight up that the United States is an actual mob boss and Canada pays the protection money.
Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition.
Uh-oh. Bro is about to break bad.
Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently,
Gee, I wonder which of the two superpowers he's referring to. I guess we will never know.
great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited.
And there it is. Bro just broke bad. He's gone off the reservation. This is what happens when an unhappy vassal decides enough is enough and it's time to make a run for it. I can only thank Comrade President Trump for this. He really is helping to bring about the American century of humiliation.
You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination.
In this next part, he's lamenting that all the fancy and fake institutions built by the Americans over the last 80 years are all dead and dying now, that the Americans are no longer bothering with the illusion of the so-called rules-based international order. He's not wrong.
When the rules no longer protect you, you must protect yourself.
Yes, he means what you think he means. He's telling Western countries to arm themselves against the American empire. I'm fast forwarding through this next bit because he's just using big words to say something simple, which is that American vassal states need to band together rather than standing alone against the might of the US military. Obviously, this is unfathomably based and completely without precedent.
And our new approach rests on what Alexander Stubb, the president of Finland, has termed value-based realism. Or to put another way, we aim to be both principled and pragmatic.
Okay, the smart cookies among you should know where this is headed. Quote unquote, being pragmatic is Westward leadership code for cozying up to China.
Principled in our commitment to fundamental values, sovereignty, territorial integrity, the prohibition of the use of force except when consistent with the UN Charter, and respect for human rights. And pragmatic in recognizing that progress is often incremental, that interests diverge, that not every partner will share all of our values. So we're engaging broadly, strategically with open eyes. We actively take on the world as it is, not wait around for a world we wish to be.
Translation, we can still pretend to care about all that fake and gay stuff while we make bank with China so that we can afford the guns to defend ourselves from the Americans. S-tier strategy there, bro. I mean, it's literally just common sense, but common sense is shockingly uncommon among Western leaders. The next part, he's just glazing himself, so I'm skipping over it.
We've agreed a comprehensive strategic partnership with the EU, including joining SAFE, the European Defense Procurement Arrangements. We have signed 12 other trade and security deals on 4 continents in 6 months. In the past few days, we've concluded new strategic partnerships with China and Qatar. We're negotiating free trade pacts with India, ASEAN, Thailand, Philippines, and Mercosur.
Bro brought the receipts. Some more fancy BS I'm skipping over.
On Arctic sovereignty, we stand firmly with Greenland and Denmark and fully support their unique right to determine Greenland's future. Our commitment to NATO's Article 5 is unwavering.
And yet another historical first. The first time any NATO leader has invoked Article 5 against the Americans. Not the Russians, not the Chinese, the Americans. Comrade Premier Marx Carney is on fire. And then he talks about some of the next steps that Canada is taking to shore up NATO. It's honestly not much, but what can you really expect from the Canadians? At least their rhetoric is the right direction. Baby steps, I guess. The next segment is important. Carney lays out the clearest case for why the American vassal states must stand together or fall alone.
But I'd also say that great powers can afford for now to go it alone. They have the market size, the military capacity, and the leverage to dictate terms. Middle powers do not. But when we only negotiate bilaterally with a hegemon, we negotiate from weakness. We accept what's offered. We compete with each other to be the most accommodating. This is not sovereignty. It's the performance of sovereignty while accepting subordination. In a world of great power rivalry, the countries in between have a choice: compete with each other for favor, or to combine to create a third path with impact.
I could not have said it better myself. Since China isn't interested in actively leading the charge against American hegemony, the Western vassals have no choice but to buddy up and try to form a united front. But this will not work. And it won't work for the same reason why the Europeans surrendered their sovereignty to the Americans in the first place. Collectively, the EU could be just as powerful as the US. They have the same land, population, money, and resources. What they don't have is a single country that's powerful enough to be the unquestioned leader of the alliance. This is why they gave that job to the Americans. That lack of leadership problem doesn't go away just because the Americans are a horrible leader. In fact, it gets worse, since individual bilateral relations with the US will become the splitting point for any potential united front long before it forms. Every Eurocuck leader will try to score a separate sweetheart deal with Trump by undermining his fellow Eurocuck buddies. Obviously, Carney is no fool, and he's well aware of this leadership problem. In this next part, he makes a subtle case for a solution. Let's see if you can spot it.
We shouldn't allow the rise of hard power to blind us to the fact that the power of legitimacy, integrity, and rules will remain strong if we choose to wield them together. Which brings me back to Havel. What does it mean for middle powers to live the truth? Well, first, it means naming reality. Stop invoking rules-based international order as though it still functions as advertised. Call it what it is: a system of intensifying great power rivalry where the most powerful pursue their interests using economic integration as coercion.
I think you can see where he's going with this.
It means acting consistently, applying the same standards to allies and rivals. When middle powers criticize economic intimidation from one direction but stay silent when it comes from another, we are keeping the sign in the window.
Yes, he's talking about China.
It means building what we claim to believe in. Rather than waiting for the old order to be restored, it means creating institutions and agreements that function as described. And it means reducing the leverage that enables coercion.
I'll translate the whole thing. We need to pull our brown noses out of you-know-where and start to call a mob boss a mob boss. We also need to stop calling other mob bosses the devil just because they're a rival to our mob boss. Let's actually work together with the Chinese to form new economic alliances so that we can defend our sovereignty together. Wise words, wise words. This next part that I'm fast forwarding through is just Carney doing an ad read for Canada and why Canada is worth allying with. It's obvious who his target audience is on this one.
We understand that this rupture calls for more than adaptation. It calls for honesty about the world as it is. We are taking the sign out of the window. We know the old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy. But we believe that from the fracture, we can build something bigger, better, stronger, more just.
Yep, he cooked. He's telling the Europeans what they already know is true, but don't want to hear. That Trump is not a fluke, and that this is a new normal for the American empire. Trump has set a new benchmark for naked American imperialism, and there's no moving the Overton window back to where it was before Trump. It's time for the Europeans to nut up and be real leaders, not just administrators. They need to band together, make nice with China, and tell the Americans to go play in traffic. I couldn't agree more. This is the only sensible thing for the Europeans to do at this point. But I doubt that any of them will take Carney's advice. He goes on for a few more minutes, but I'll cut off the video here. He's made his point, and so have I. Canada is clearly thinking in the right direction. It's now up to the Eurocucks themselves to do what they need to do. But unless China steps up in a big way, I don't see this becoming a real breaking point for NATO or American hegemony over Europe. At this point, I still don't see the Europeans going to bat for Denmark in any real way. The Danes will likely be forced into some kind of compromise with Trump that satisfies his ego and humiliates the Eurocucks some more. What happens after that is anyone's guess, but I'm betting it's just going to get worse. Trump will keep going until someone stands up to him, and there's only one country with the power to do that. And that country still doesn't seem interested in leading any kind of global revolt against the American empire, alas. Anyway, that's the end of the video. I hope you found this speech from Carney to be as cathartic as I have. I didn't think it was possible for a Western head of state to cook like that, and I'm happy to be proven otherwise. Let's see if Carney lives up to his own rhetoric in the coming months and what the rest of the world does in response. Until then, peace.